Coming up, an update on President Trump's battle with COVID-19.
And concerns surrounding tonight's vice presidential debate.
All of that and more, Wednesday, October 7th. Good morning, Emerson. I'm Mike Cerullo.
And I'm Adelaide Willert. We begin with this morning's top stories.
President Trump's doctor says the president is not experiencing COVID-19 symptoms anymore. This comes shortly after the president returned to the White House. Trump is being criticized by infectious disease experts for removing his mask to take photos on the White House balcony. The president later compared COVID-19 to the flu on social media and told Americans not to be scared of the virus. Facebook took down his post because it violated the site's guidelines regarding misinformation, and Twitter flagged the tweet.
The vice presidential debate is tonight, but many are wondering what will happen. President Trump was diagnosed with COVID-19 only 5 days ago, and his running mate, Mike Pence, has not been self-isolating since then. In light of the president's diagnosis, the Commission on Presidential Debates says there will be plexiglass barriers between the candidates and the moderator. Mike Pence and his team vehemently objected against this, but finally settled in order to be able to participate in the debate. Medical experts feel the debate is too risky to be held in person because of Pence's close contact with the president. A source from the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth says, quote, "This shouldn't be going ahead because it puts everyone at risk attending the debate, not just the participants."
The global stock market dropped Tuesday after President Trump called for stimulus negotiations to pause until after the election. But just a few hours later, the president called for smaller relief measures to be approved by lawmakers. Democrats and Republicans have been struggling to reach a deal since benefits from the CARES Act expired at the end of July. The president said in his original tweet the Senate should be focusing all of its time on the confirmation process of his Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett. Millions of Americans are still unemployed, and most will likely have to wait at least another month before a deal can be reached.
Hurricane Delta is charging towards the Gulf Coast. Just yesterday, the storm escalated to a Category 4 hurricane. As of this morning, the storm dropped to a Category 2 and touched down in the Yucatan Peninsula. The U.S. Gulf Coast will be hit on Friday, and both Cancun and Cozumel are expected to be impacted as they were by Hurricane Wilma in 2005. Like Wilma, Hurricane Delta's wind speeds jumped from 77 to 85 miles per hour in less than 24 hours, leaving experts with concerns of severe storm surge up to 12 hours in advance of the storm touching down. Delta will be the 4th hurricane to hit Louisiana this season and is the 25th named storm since June 1st. Those on the Gulf Coast should be prepared to evacuate if need be and should keep track of the hurricane's location using storm tracking technologies.
And now for a weekly update on the COVID-19 pandemic. The FDA published new guidelines for companies producing COVID-19 vaccines Tuesday. The guidelines require additional testing to be performed before companies can seek emergency approval. The FDA says candidates who receive a trial vaccine should be followed for at least 2 months after their final dosage. The Trump administration initially objected to this decision, but have since reversed their position. The new guidelines will make it impossible for a vaccine to be produced before the election on November 3rd. The FDA proposed similar standards last week in an effort to increase public confidence about the vaccine.
A recent study done by the World Health Organization has concluded that around 10% of the global population has been infected with the coronavirus. That means around 770 million people have had the virus, though many will not have been diagnosed. Making matters worse, flu season is approaching. COVID-19 researchers say that this winter, up to 2,900 Americans could die from the virus every day. According to the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, it is possible to have COVID and the flu at the same time, which could be fatal to someone with no pre-existing conditions. Dr. Fauci and other medical experts continue to advocate for the wearing of masks, social distancing, and now for limiting or eliminating contact with those at high risk.
Emersonians across the globe are doing online classes, and it can be hard to stay in touch with what's going on here in Boston sometimes. We're excited to introduce our newest segment, Campus Connect, where we talk to virtual students about how they're adapting to this unusual semester.
This week, our Campus Connect correspondent, Simona Riccardi, spoke to Marie Kuwabarag. a marketing student currently studying in the Swiss Alps.
Hi there, Mari. It's so good to see you. Where are you exactly?
I am currently based in Switzerland, so kind of far from Boston at the moment.
Yeah, Switzerland is some ways away. What's going on in your part of Switzerland?
Europe in general is a little bit better than the States, and Switzerland is doing a pretty good job at keeping stuff contained. Everyone is allowed to walk around without masks. It's only when you're in public spaces, but as of now, cases have been going back up.
Do you think that there's a reason that the numbers are going back up?
I feel like because people are getting comfortable knowing that things are getting better, their caution of like maybe washing their hands or being around people isn't as alert as, for example, people in the States who know that they have to be. When I came back from the States just before school started, I had to quarantine here for about 10 days legally. I had to sign a lot of papers to show that I was doing it.
How do you feel like the connection between you and Switzerland online and Emerson as a community is?
I feel connected, but at the same time, it's a little weird, just the difference of...
Because Switzerland is 6 hours ahead or 5 hours?
6 hours ahead, yeah.
I can't imagine what your sleep schedule is like.
I'm in Xi Gamma Nu.
You guys are still going forward with recruitment this semester.
And I'm actually head of new member ed almost like 4 times a week, and that's about 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. for me, which is why I changed my schedule.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels nice that I'm doing something kind of a part of all my Zoom classes.
You're doing a lot. So how do you feel like you're managing it all?
I'm going to be honest, it's been tough. It's not been easy. I'm still figuring out a balance, honestly, of class and doing other things right now. I'm working on it.
Thank you so much, Mari, for chatting with us. I hope that everything is great by you and that you and your family stay well. And we hope to see you next semester.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a really nice time, and I hope everything in Boston is going well as well.
Thank you so much, Simona. I'm very excited for this new segment to come to the show.
And hopefully we'll be hearing from a lot more international students and maybe some people studying in LA. Now we head to our politics correspondent, Brilee Carey.
What do you have for us, Brilee?
President Trump is back in the White House after testing positive for the coronavirus. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper says having COVID-19 is not a national security risk and that there are plans in place for if a president should become too sick to lead. The decision to move back to the White House comes as his administration has turned down a CDC offer to help with contact tracing. It is widely believed the president and many others contracted COVID-19 after hosting the September 26th Rose Garden nomination ceremony of Amy Coney Barrett for the Supreme Court. That nomination event has now been labeled as a super spreader, with at least 8 attendees testing positive for the coronavirus. Another 10 people who were around the president in that time period have also tested positive, bringing the current total to 18 positives. Some notable positive tests include the First Lady, the White House press secretary, and at least 3 Republican senators. And Monday marking the first day of the Supreme Court term for this year. Chief Justice Roberts opened the term with praise for late Justice Ginsburg, calling her a treasured colleague. The Supreme Court is currently being held remotely and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. Significant cases on the docket this year include another review of the Affordable Care Act, and many cases centered around the idea of religious liberty. Justices Alito and Thomas criticized Hodges versus Obergefell, which legalized the right to same-sex marriage on Monday, saying that it takes away from a person's choice of how to define marriage from a religious perspective and that it should be overturned. Back to you, Mike and Adelaide.
Thank you, Brilee. A local furniture company is taking steps to keep poll workers safe this election season. AIS in Leominster will donate more than 20,000 high-quality face masks to Massachusetts polling stations. Nearly 250 cities and towns in the Commonwealth have already requested additional face masks from the AIS donation. Mail-in ballots and early voting will help manage polling station crowds, but state officials still predict that more than 1 million residents will vote in person on November 3rd this year. AIS sent out its first shipment of masks earlier this week and will be sending out more in the coming days.
The Brigham and Women's Hospital and the MIT Broad Institute are working together on a coronavirus surveillance study in Boston. At-home tests will be released to 10,000 Bostonians to help medical experts get a clearer picture of COVID in the city. The study aims to find trends in clusters of different populations, as well as evidence of previous undetected infections. The viral tests will have a 24-hour turnaround from the Broad Institute, and the Brigham and Women's Hospital will analyze samples for antibodies. If the study goes well, at-home testing may become a viable option if there's a surge of cases in Boston this winter. Halloween in some Massachusetts cities is going to look a little different this year. Leicester is joining a growing list of communities to cancel trick-or-treating. This comes after Worcester, Springfield, and Lawrence made similar announcements over the past few weeks. Leicester is the first city listed as low risk for COVID-19 transmission to cancel this traditional Halloween activity. The CDC lists door-to-door trick-or-treating as a high-risk activity. Other communities across the state are expected to follow in the coming weeks. And now we head over to our Boston News correspondent, Sam DeCoste, who attended the first in a series of protests against the re-election of Trump administration.
We're here in the Boston Common as Bostonians are gathering for a nonviolent protest calling for, quote, Trump and Pence out now, end quote. The event organizers, Refuse Fascism, are organizing protests nationwide beginning October 3rd going up until Election Day. Dozens of protesters gathered in the Boston Common and walked through the streets of downtown Crossing on Saturday. We spoke with Samantha Goldman, a co-editor of Refuse Fascism, about the goals of the ongoing protests.
We are going for the ouster of this fascist regime. We are going for a situation in which people are flooding the streets. We're talking about millions.
One of the organizers for the Boston protest, Stan Lawrence, shared similar beliefs, urging Bostonians to attend a protest.
Join us. People should be out in the streets right now. This is not a time to sit back and just rely on the elections. If we're not out in the streets, we have nobody to blame but ourselves.
This is the first Boston protest organized by Refuse Fascism, but it appears that it won't be the last before November 3rd. Refuse Fascism is calling for protesters to return in waves in the days and weeks following today's protest to keep momentum building going into Election Day. Refuse Fascism says, quote, "We refuse to accept a fascist America," end quote. This is Sam DeCoste reporting for Good Morning Emerson.
Thanks, Sam. When we come back, Joey DuBois will give you an update on all your favorite teams.
Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Good Morning Emerson.
Now we go over to our sports correspondent, Joey DuBois. What do you have for us, Joey?
The National Football League is not immune to COVID-19. The Tennessee's Titans did not play last Sunday after numerous players and staff members tested positive for the coronavirus. The league is hoping that the Titans can all test negative before their game next Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. Also, the Patriots played the Chiefs on Monday night instead of Sunday as originally scheduled after Patriots quarterback Cam Newton tested positive over the weekend. The league is closely monitoring these situations and hoping they can keep the outbreaks to a minimum in order to continue the season. The Patriots offense struggled on Monday without Cam, and they fell to the defending champion Chiefs 26-10. Brian Hoyer started the game at quarterback, but was relieved by second-year player Jarrett Stidham late in the third quarter. However, the Chiefs' defense stood tall, even without star defensive tackle Chris Jones, and held both quarterbacks in check. Patrick Mahomes led the Chiefs offensively with 236 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. The Patriots will look to bounce back against the Denver Broncos on Sunday at 4:25 p.m. The Los Angeles Lakers take a commanding 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. LA defeated the Miami Heat 102-96 last night behind LeBron James's 28 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. The Lakers are squarely in the driver's seat now in the series as LeBron looks to secure his 4th championship. But LeBron also knows as well as anyone that a 3-1 lead is not insurmountable, and Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat will not go down easy. Game 5 of the NBA Finals is Friday night at 9 p.m. And in tennis news, the French Open inches closer to its final. On the men's side, world number 1 Novak Djokovic and number 2 Rafael Nadal are both still alive in the tournament. Djokovic and Nadal are both chasing Roger Federer's record 20 Grand Slam titles. Nadal currently holds 19 titles, 12 of which were won at the French Open, while Djokovic holds 17. As for the women's bracket, the number 1 player in the world, Simona Halep, was upset in a one-sided 4th-round matchup. That leaves number 4 American Sofia Kenin as the highest-ranked player left in the tournament. Kenin won the last Grand Slam back in February with her victory at the Australian Open. The women's final will be played on Saturday, followed by the men's final on Sunday. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Joey. Now let's go over to our entertainment correspondent, Amogh Matthews, for the latest in film and television.
Thanks, Mike. Let's dive right into the world of entertainment. So, Regal Theater Cinemas just announced that it will be temporarily closing down all 536 locations in the U.S. on Thursday. The closure reflects a, quote, increasingly challenging theatrical landscape according to the chain due to the COVID pandemic. Movie studios are also delaying film releases that have led to limited audiences. They're closing down again right after they were just reopening in late August. Roughly 40,000 Regal employees across the U.S. will now face a work furlough. Regal Cinemas, a subsidiary of Cineworld Group, is the second largest film exhibitor in the U.S. right after AMC Theaters. To all you country music fans out there, if any, it was just announced that Reba McEntire and Darius Rucker are teaming up to host this year's Country Music Awards. Like all award shows now, this year's show will look a little bit different than usual, but according to Darius Rucker, this night of musical celebration will definitely not disappoint. This is the 54th annual CMA Awards, and while this is Rucker's first time hosting, Reba McEntire will be hosting the CMAs for the 5th time. Some nominees this year include Miranda Lambert, Carrie Underwood, Luke Combs, and Keith Urban. Exciting stuff. The Walking Dead is ending. The show that had dominated my high school sophomore year experience is finally saying goodbye to the AMC screens. Oh well. Don't cry yet though, because the show is scheduled to conclude after an expanded 11th season that will air over 2 years, ending in 2022. While the main show is ending, the 2 spin-off shows, Fear the Walking Dead and The Talking Dead, will live on. AMC said it was also developing an episodic anthology series called Tales of the Walking Dead, as well as other projects in the universe. A lot of zombie content all around, folks. Legendary guitarist and co-founder of the band Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, passed away last night. He died in St. Anne's Hospital in Santa Monica after unfortunately losing his long fight with cancer. Sources say he was battling cancer for well over a decade. Eddie Van Halen is considered one of the greatest guitar players of all time. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2007 and achieved a huge level of hard rock superstardom. The pop culture icon is survived by his wife, Janie, and his son, Wolfgang. That's all for me with entertainment stories. Now, let's head on over to Boylston Bites correspondent Carlee Bronkema, who found a new place to eat near campus.
Are you all about the sauce? Well, we've got the place for you. Sauce in downtown Boston, just minutes away from Faneuil Hall, is known for their 14 varieties of sauce and delicious French fries.
Hello, my name is Lucas Versan. I'm a fry cook over here at Sauce. I've worked here for about 3.5 years now. 3 people, Tanya, Chin, and Renee, were all working at a startup company, and they got laid off during the 2008 recession. And they had this dream about opening a restaurant, and they just pulled the trigger on it, and in 2011, the place opened. I personally love the crispy chicken sandwich. I think it's just a classic sandwich. We've had it for a very long time now, and it's a fan favorite. My favorite sauce is the secret sauce. It used to be called the Andalous mayo base. There's tomato, onion, paprika. It's just creamy, delicious fry goodness. Poutine is obviously a big seller. People come here for the poutine. I think we got the best poutine in Boston. People agree. I always joked about with the people I work with having Sauce pizza. Obviously, probably not going to happen. Our chef Chin is a really smart guy, and I think he'd probably do a good job with it. Worked here for like 3.5 years. I think everybody who works here is really cool. We get people from all walks of life, work here and who come here and eat. It's a really tight location.
So next time you're in the North End, stop by Sauce for some delicious fries. I'm Carlee for Good Morning Emerson.
Thank you, Carlee. Those fries look delicious.
I would love to try some of that secret sauce. But right now, we are joined by our musical guest, Diet Sig. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
No, we were lucky enough here at Emerson to have you guys perform last fall. What have you guys been up to since then?
A lot.
Yeah.
So when we performed at Emerson, we had just finished recording our record, I think.
Yeah, I think we were you guys were the first show since recording. We came straight from the studio to play that show.
I think so.
Yeah.
So we've released the record since then, which has been really cool. It came out on May 1st in the depths of quarantine. We've been doing a lot of stuff. Promoting our record and also quarantining. And, I've been doing a lot of printmaking and printmaking education. Noah's, you've been cycling, so we've been busy.
Now, you said you released your album earlier in quarantine. What was the difference between releasing this album and some of your previous albums?
I think the one obvious one is that the world is kind of crazy right now and on lockdown, so that was kind of a different experience. Usually it's like, we release a record, then we go on the road for like 2 or 3 years, but that didn't seem to be the case this time, so it's pretty different trying to just kind of promote things on social media while everyone is kind of stuck at home.
It was fun though. I mean, like, we definitely, I think, made the best of it. Like, we had like a virtual album release party instead of like a in-person release party, and we weren't able to shoot our music video like we had planned to for our song Who Are You, so we ended up releasing like a TikTok dance challenge that was choreographed by the person who was supposed to choreograph our video. So we definitely had a lot of pivoting to do, but it was fun. It like kind of kept us on our toes, and I was glad to like have something to work towards like while we were in quarantine. It's like nice to have a project to do.
So do you guys have any new projects that we should be on the lookout for?
I guess currently, or last week, we filmed a music video, which was a lot of fun to do. Because we built the set ourselves. It's kind of like on a children's theater, like we found in a park in Richmond, and it was fun to make. And it was like we did the choreographer that did the TikTok also helped choreograph the entire video, so we kind of have it like extended from the TikTok video. Yeah, like this was the video we were supposed to film in March, and it definitely got really tweaked, so we finally got to shoot it like last week. So that's like our next thing that all of our fans and friends will get to see from us. Yeah.
Now, I know that I'm very excited to check that project out, but we're interested to know, what are some of your favorite performance memories?
Okay, we were in Philadelphia. We're playing a show, and we had done some shows with girls' rock camps in the years past, where we would have them open for us, and they would table at our shows and fundraise. And we actually, for our tummy ache video, got to work with the girls from some New York and Philly girls' rock camps, and it was really wholesome and cute, and it was such a fun show.
I think one of my favorite ones I always think of is we were touring in the UK. We played in Manchester, and it was one of those shows where like everything kept breaking. It was like one thing after the other, but it happened to just be the most fun show because it was just like the crowd was so good and responsive, and we were just kind of like, the first thing broke, I feel like in the first song, like a mic stand just like collapsed or something, and then like it was just like one thing after the other, so it's just like us literally just like trying to get through the show. But I guess like we just happened to be in a really good attitude and everyone else there, and it just kind of turned into just like this giant kind of party, reckless, like just sloppy mess, but it was fun.
It was really fun.
That's the fun of live performances. You never know what's going to happen. So what song are you most excited to perform after COVID?
Ooh.
I guess Stare Into the Sun would be a fun one to play.
What are some things that people should know about that song?
So actually, I wrote this song after reading this thing online that is probably fake, but it was that, staring at your phone for 3 hours a day is the equivalent of staring into the sun for 10 seconds, like on your eyes. Like, it's so bad for our eyes. And that really freaked me out because I'm on my phone all the time. Like, I feel like we all are. But, you put the timer on your phone for social media and you're like, 45 minutes a day of social media is going to be enough. And then it pops up when you're in your morning scroll. You're like, what? But yeah, so that song is kind of about being on the internet a lot and kind of navigating how it affects, like, my sense of self and, like, this image I'm projecting to others as this, like, perfect image of myself, which is not true, and how, like, the people that I love will always kind of, like, see beyond that, and like trying to channel that energy in more relationships, like letting people see beyond the like facade. But yeah, it's about social media, how it hurts your eyes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful to have you. And when we come back, Diet Sig will perform their song, Staring Into the Sun.
Stick around, you don't want to miss it. Welcome back to Good Morning Emerson.
Now here's Diet Sig performing their song, Stare Into the Sun.
What's up? Good morning, Emerson. We are Diet Sig, and we're going to be playing a song for you called Stare Into the Sun. It's off of our most recent album that came out in May, which is called Do You Wonder About Me? I'm tired of staring into the sun. My eyes turn and I'm done with looking at everyone. Keep your eyes closed, fingers crossed, you know who I am, just so I'll come across. I promise I'm not less fun. Sorry, I keep it inside. I tend to compartmentalize my relationships. The way I kiss, the things I say, I don't shape-shift it. I want to let you see me right through the version that they see of me. 'Cause you'll find out eventually. And if you call me up, then I will come over. But I promise I won't be sober. I'm tired of staring into the sun. I'm tired of staring into the sun. I'm tired of staring into the sun. I'm tired of staring into. I'm tired of staring into. I'm tired of staring into the sun. I'm tired of staring into. I'm tired of staring. I'm tired of staring into. I'm tired of staring into. And you are the one that I will come home to. I never thought that we would ever get this far. I'm tired of staring into. I'm tired of staring into. You are the one that I will come home to. I never thought that we would ever get this far.
What a phenomenal performance, don't you think so, Mike?
I do. Thank you so much to Diet Sig for coming out, and I know that you can check out their music on Apple Music and Spotify. Now it's time for our happy news segment. With all the serious news in the world, we're taking this opportunity to surprise each other with some lighthearted, happy stories. And if you ever find yourself in a stressful situation, try Googling puppies. A new study found spending more time looking at adorable animal photos can reduce stress. Researchers showed stressed participants 30-minute slideshows with cute animal photos and watched as their blood pressure returned to normal levels. Researchers say that while videos and photos of animals calm people down, coming into physical contact with a friendly critter is even more effective.
Ruby Sue, a cow at the Safe in Austin Rescue Ranch, has taken her first steps. She was born with a birth defect that fused her two hind legs together, preventing her from walking. But a pet mobility company, Walk-In Pets, came to the rescue. Veterinary experts designed a custom wheelchair for Ruby Sue after a plea from her owners. The 2-week-old calf can now run around with her furry friends and may be able to walk without an assist later in life.
It's so exciting what technology can do these days. I'm so glad that that cow is running around now.
I know, and baby cows are so cute.
Well, thank you so much for waking up with us today.
We'll see you next time, and have a good morning.